All right, and now this is not an environmental question, but are those mattresses comfortable?
Great question. Yes, they are comfortable. I am a believer. So I had shoulder replacement surgery about 3 years ago, and prior to that, I had another shoulder surgery. So for 5 years, I've been in absolute shoulder pain, and I bought I bought a migraine mattress and absolutely fell in love with it myself to the point where, I mean, this is what I sleep on today. I wanted to try it out before we actually recommend it to our customers. They are comfortable. You can, get a lot of these mattresses that are customizable. Savvy Rest allows you to customize the mattress based upon firmness, and I think that's also important for a lot of folks. So yes, extremely comfortable.
Great. And what about indoor gas ranges giving off dangerous fumes that are bad for health? Is that an issue?
Thank you to whoever asked that question, because this question has come up quite a bit in the last few months when all of a sudden we are told that municipalities and governments want to start limiting the use of gas. Here's the story on gas appliances, especially ranges. When the gas range is installed, you want to make sure that obviously there are no leaks in the gas line. There's no leaks with the range itself. The better range you buy, the better the actual burners are. So if you're spending money on a really high quality range, you're going to get steel burners. You're going to get burners that if it's in use and it blows out for any reason, it won't continue to siphon gas out. It'll just stop and you have to relight it. That's one thing, because you want to eliminate the gas leaks. The other thing is, I think that the majority of people who have range hoods in their kitchen, they either don't use them at all or they don't know how to use them. The proper way to use a range hood in the kitchen is when you go into your kitchen to start preparing your meal, I want you to turn on the range hood now, before you mix your ingredients, before you even turn on the range itself. This starts to create a current, okay? And you want to start that current early. So when you put a pot on the stove, all the fumes from what you're burning, all right, and what is exhausting from the gas is going out the range. All too often, people don't do this. They'll turn the range hood on only when they see smoke, and that by that time, it's too late. So if we look at all the studies that have been done on the dangers of gas stoves in the house, you'll notice that none of them actually pay any attention to the use of a range hood, or even if those families even had one. If they would monitor the range hood, if they would actually monitor the gas lines to make sure there are no leaks, and that's an easy test that can be done on a regular basis with a handheld meter, then there are no problems.
And you mentioned that that the municipalities want to get rid of gas stoves.
Mm-hmm.
What reason do they want to do that for?
Well, they're doing it because of environmental concerns. They're doing it because of the whole push towards electrify everything. And I'm against this, of course. First of all, I'm for people having the choice. If you want to use gas, use gas. You want to use electric, I don't care. But so many of my clients are electromagnetically sensitive that adding more electrical components in their home is just as dangerous to them as, lighting a match would be to somebody else. I have a client in California that when I first learned about induction countertops or induction cooktops years ago, he called me and he said, yeah, a friend of mine got this new form of cooktop. It's induction. It uses magnets and electricity. He said, I can't even walk into his house because he's so sensitive. He starts feeling it in himself. And if you touch the handle of a pan that's on an induction top, you become part of the circuit. So that electrical wave starts to go through you. So if you're somebody who is sensitive to electromagnetic fields, if you're somebody who has a pacemaker, you're somebody who is going through cancer treatments and you have no immune system, the use of electric cooktops like an induction cooktop would be severely harmful to you.
Great, thank you. And what do you recommend for safe insect control inside the home for ants, cockroaches, and any kind of insects that people would normally run into?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know companies are starting to come up with their own formulations of things. I usually go back to two ingredients, borax and diatomaceous earth. I think the combination of those two, just in a dust form in the corners of the rooms or blown in underneath the baseboards, are very helpful because it actually will essentially dry out the insect, and it'll terminate their life.
Great, thank you. And all right, the next question is going to come from David. Where are you from, and what's your question?
Yeah, I'm David from the Washington, D.C. area. Thank you again, Andrew, for appearing. I appreciate it. I wanted to ask you, Andrew, about, first of all, countertops, granite, quartz, and recycled glass. I was hoping you could give a comparison of the three or other countertops. Isn't it true that granite is radioactive? I heard that to some degree. And secondly, if you're chemically sensitive, would you discourage people from buying a brand new home? You want to wait until it off gases and settle because it could be problematic for someone who's chemically sensitive?
Wow, David, great questions. Thank you. First off, with countertops, I don't like natural stone countertops, not because of the radioactivity nature of them. I'll get to that in a second. I don't like natural stone countertops because in order to keep them from staining, you have to seal them on a regular basis, sometimes every 6 to 12 months. The sealers that are made to seal up granite countertops or quartzite countertops are all fairly toxic materials. So imagine every 6 months, you're coating these countertops with a toxic material just to keep them looking good. Now, if you don't care about that, if you don't care if they stain or if they have water absorption leading to cracking, then that's fine. Then go ahead and install them. I don't have any problem with that from a health standpoint themselves. It's those sealers that are problematic. Now, to the radioactivity issue, several years ago, a study came out saying that a small percentage of granite slabs can contain radioactive material, and that we need to test all of our countertops because of this. Come to find out, that study was actually paid for by another manufacturer of quartz countertops. And so I kind of take that research with a grain of salt. I think that, is it possible? Of course, it's possible because these stones are extracted from the earth, but not very probable at all. And again, I kind of look at that, follow the money trail, and it followed all the way to one of their biggest competitors. And so I don't think that is a very fair trial. Regarding a new home, if you're chemically sensitive, I think it's possible to build a new home. Matter of fact, I have loads of examples of clients that I've worked with over the years who moved into a brand new home, completely built for them, and they're thriving in those homes. So it's very possible. It happens every day now. Does it happen for the average person? No, I think if you have chemical sensitivity, there's always fear in moving into a new home because of fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to hurt you because you don't really know what's been used to make that house. There's about 1,000 different things that go into building a house. And I've had clients over the years that have been so sensitive, we've had to have them test every component that goes into their house, all the way down to the screws and nails that hold it together, to make sure they can tolerate that before we built their house. So if you were to buy a home that you worked with an average builder and it's a nice house, well made, I would say there'd probably be a problem inside of that house. And how long would it take for you to be able to live there? It could be months, it could be years, it could be never. Everybody's tolerance is different. And that's why I like to get involved with the home construction from the start, at the design phase, to make sure that everything that's chosen is something that you will be able to tolerate.
Great, thank you. And can you talk about radon? Dangers of radon radiation, how we should handle it, how dangerous it is?
Yeah, I mean, radon is the one of the leading causes of lung cancer in this country, and radon's and here we go. It's another one of those natural things that comes out of the ground. Radon is a gas. It's colorless, odorless gas, and it emanates typically from homes that are either built with a basement or built with a slab on grade. Crawl space homes are typically a little less susceptible because the living space is not attached to the concrete. But I think that every home should be tested for radon, and if it's over what deemed to be acceptable levels, there are ways to mitigate through ventilation systems, through certain types of coatings or sealers that mitigate. I think every new home that's built today, especially if you're building your home in an area that's known to have a radon problem, build the home with all the equipment already installed or all the piping already installed to install a radon mitigation system if you need one. To install the piping you need at the time of building maybe costs a few $100s. And then you hook it up to a pump system afterwards. To do it in an existing home will now cost you several $1,000s. So do it while you can.
Great. And what are your thoughts on the use of natural and non-toxic cleaning products, and how can homeowners make the switch to healthier cleaning products?
Awesome question. That's again part of that last 10%, I believe. I think cleaning products is one of those things that can kind of make or break your healthy home project. And let's say you just spent your life savings and built yourself a beautiful, healthy home, and then you hire a cleaning crew to get it all ready for you to move in, and they use all of these noxious cleaning compounds to make it look good, but you're essentially ruining this beautiful, healthy palette you put together. It makes a big difference. And so the good thing is there's a lot of companies out now that make some really nice products, very easy to use, very, very safe products. I mean, again, working with companies like AFM, Branch Basics makes some wonderful products. I mean, even small companies, small regional companies. A company I just worked with recently called Tees Organics makes these wonderful organic, natural cleaning materials. Matter of fact, you can make it yourself at home just using things like vinegar and borax and so forth. Even a little bit of essential oil, and it's very easy to do and very effective.
Great. And how do they work? A lot of times, I think people get these real natural cleaning products, and they feel like it doesn't work as well as the more toxic varieties.
Yeah, and then that's a really good point. And that's the reason why those toxic products work so well is because of what they do. And I'll take as an example something like Fantastic or 409. When you spray that onto a stain on a surface, it actually just eats away at the stain. The chemicals will actually erode the stain so you can wipe it away. Not very safe, but very effective, right? Then you take other materials, something like the AFM multi-purpose cleaner or the Branch Basics cleaner. It doesn't eat away at the surface, but it's what's called a surfactant. It penetrates in and actually just debonds the stain and lifts it away from the surface. And it does that using very, very safe materials. Now, in that action, sometimes you got to do it twice, because what you don't want to do is use a material that is eating away at the surface, because that's also probably eating away at your skin and your nasal passages and the surface itself, and you'll eventually start to dull the surface. So yeah, some of these natural materials or safer materials don't work as well as the chemically laden products. I'll guarantee that. But you'd be surprised. A lot of them are almost as good or just as good, and they are getting better. Technology in all of these materials is really all the research and technology is being pushed towards the safer alternatives, because that's what the market is demanding. So I think that it can only get better from here.
Great. Our next question is coming from Arlene. Where you're from, and what is the question, Arlene?
Well, hi, I'm from Canada, BC, and I've got two questions. One for you, Michael. I missed the first part of this interview. Is there a way that I can access a replay?
Yeah, I guess that question is for me. Yes, if you go to the website, therealtruthabout.health.com, you will, under videos, you'll find all the replays, but you will need to wait for it tomorrow because we need to process them first. And then you'll be able to find all the videos from all of the lectures, including this one with Andy.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. For Andy, I'm in Canada, as I said, and I wonder if you know about the Essentia organic latex mattress.
I do not. I think that there are a lot of good companies that have started up in the last few years, and this sounds like it could be one of them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. And our next question is coming from Stacy. Where are you from, and what is your question?
Hello. I'm so sorry. This was already answered and you just talked about mattresses. Anyways, I'm from Indiana. And are there specific things that we should be looking for? Like, Green Guard certified or like GOTS or something like that, like certifications when it comes to picking out mattresses. Like it's very timely because my mom was just asking me, and we have a bamboo one, but I feel like even since we've bought one, the technology has gotten even better. So I'm sorry if you went over this, but are there a few things to look for mattresses?
No, that's a great question, and actually we talked about matches, but this kind of gets more into detail, and this is good. Those certifications that you talk about, like Green Guard Gold and GOTS and GALS and some others, OTEX that are out there, these are certifications that have been developing over the last few years to almost the last 10 years. So if you bought a mattress that was a very healthy, safe, natural mattress 10 years ago, none of these things really existed at the time. And so what I'm looking for is, first of all, I'm always looking for mattresses that are certified organic, in the materials that they use. GOTS, GOTS, GALS, GOLS. These are certifications that have to do with things like the latex that's used or the fabrics used itself. Green Guard Gold is an independent test for the entire material, for the entire mattress itself. It doesn't test individual things. And matter of fact, the GOTS and GALS certification has nothing to do with off-gas. It has to do with whether or not the ingredients are derived organically in an organic manner. But Green Guard Gold certification is about the off-gassing predominantly of formaldehyde. And so, yes, if you find a mattress that is Green Guard Gold certified, that tells you that a mattress releases less than 7 parts per billion of formaldehyde. So that's an absolutely great start. So I would look at things like that. Of course, I always tell people to get recommendations from family and friends, and especially, places like this where you can get to interact with so many knowledgeable people. There's a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, a lot of information that is somewhat misleading and erroneous. We talked about that a little earlier when we talked about greenwashing. But yeah, those certifications you talked about, they're definitely a great start.
Okay, great. And I know you hit on this in your lecture, so this might be a little bit of a repeat, but what do you recommend for painting walls and staining floors to avoid exposure to dangerous chemicals?
Yeah, so we did touch on this a bit, but let's talk about painting walls. The biggest thing right now in the paint industry is that every paint manufacturer is talking about their zero VOC paints, and all these paints are being marketed as being eco-friendly and green. And again, I talked about this. They're eco-friendly and green because they don't contain volatile organic compounds that are regulated by the EPA to be creating low-level smog and ozone. It has nothing to do with the health of the occupants. All right. And so there's also a lot of misinformation out there about what happens with paint when it cures. The average paint cures in about 7 to 10 days. The curing process is essentially where the moisture or water or solvent evaporates and it creates the film on the surface. That's the curing process. When the curing process stops, this is when off-gassing begins. Off-gassing, by definition, is the release of unreacted chemical monomers after a full cure. So this is like dust poking off of a surface. A lot of people think that off-gassing is like steam coming off a bowl of hot water. It's not the case. That's a head of pressure. That's something different. Off-gassing is just the release of dust particles of chemical that come off of the surface, and they can come off in some instances for 30, 40 years. So I think that you got to be a little bit more mindful of the materials that you use. I don't buy materials solely on whether or not they are low or zero VOC. I buy them based upon do they use any toxic or hazardous ingredients? That's the bigger issue for me, because a gallon of paint can be made using 100 different chemicals, right? You look at the back side of the label and it's going to list maybe 3 or 4. Well, they only list those 3 or 4 because by law they have to list those. The other things that are in there, the other things that aren't listed on the safety data sheet are things such as elements that make up either less than 1% of the volume or are part of what's called a proprietary blend. This is where manufacturers are able to hide ingredients like formaldehyde precursors, formaldehyde donors. Formaldehyde precursors are chemicals that in a gallon of paint, in a liquid gallon of paint, it is completely inert. You can't even measure it. But as the paint starts to cure in the wall, those chemicals combine, it creates formaldehyde during the curing process, and then it begins to release as off-gassing. And that can happen for years afterwards. So you got to look for manufacturers who are really transparent with their ingredients and transparent about the verbiage that they use on how they sell you the products. And the same thing goes true with floor coatings. The exact same conversation can be had with those floor coating manufacturers.
Right. And how do you approach the issue of water quality, and what steps can homeowners take to ensure that their drinking water is clean and healthy?
Yeah, this is a problem all over the country. First, you have to obviously determine, is it municipal water? Is it well water? In every consult that I do for a new home, inevitably we talk about water, and they want to know what purification system to put in. I really don't recommend a purification system until we know what we're dealing with. And so that requires water testing. If you are on municipal water, chances are you can go to the municipal website and they will have the most current water report at the ready. And they'll tell you exactly what's in the water. And of course, because of situations that they're still dealing with in Flint and other parts of the country, municipalities, especially the ones who have good water sources, want to tell you this. All right. And so you want to download that water report. If you're on well water, then you actually have to take a sample and have it tested by an independent lab, looking for the exact same things, looking for heavy metals, pathogens, carcinogens, and so forth. And then from that point, we can recommend the best water purification system based on what we see.
Great. All right. Our next question is coming from Gail. Gail, where are you from, and what's your question?
Hi, I'm from Boise, Idaho. And just want to say it's a great presentation. It was better than I expected. So thank you for that. But I was just curious, you mentioned wood window frames that it's required that they be treated with pesticides in this country. Mm-hmm. I just wondered about when that started. What about old window frames that are like 30 years or older? And is that a newer thing, requirement, or are they all that way?
Yeah, when I got into the business in the early 90s, I think I heard of that requirement by around the year 2000 is when manufacturers started talking to me about, because I was working with a couple of wood window companies at the time, and asking them about the finishes that they use and so forth. And in that research, we found that, well, the wood's going to have this pesticide, and it has to be there. We have no choice to use it. And so I want to say it was probably in the early 2000s that this became more prevalent.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And Becca, where are you from, and what's your question? Oops, hold on a second here. There we go. Becca, where are you from?
All right. There you go. Thank you. Yes, Becca, and I'm in Los Angeles, California, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey.
So there was a question about the purification. I was going to ask about the whole home water filtration system. So thank you for answering that. I don't know if there's any particular ones that you recommend. And then also about air filters within the home and just the air quality. Like, are there certain types of filters that are better than other, or particles per, I don't know how it goes, particles per million or something like that. So thank you very much.
Sure. Well, I'm going to take that second question because I barely touched on it before, and it really is very important. Whole house air purification is extremely important. First of all, you have to determine what type of HVAC system you have, if it's a air handling system, if it's a radiant system, so forth. Let's say, for instance, it's a whole house air handling system utilizing a furnace, a blower with an AC unit. This is typical in 85% of homes. In order to purify the air in every room, there's two ways to do it. One is to buy portable air purifiers and put them in every single room. A portable air purifier is something that it may be rated to clean up to 1,500 or up to 2,000 square feet. But let's face it, if you have an air purifier in one bedroom, the air in a bedroom all the way across the house is never going to travel over there to get through that purifier. So that rating is based upon theoretical, in a laboratory in one giant 2,000 square foot room with the unit right in the middle. All right. In your home, it's never going to happen. So either you have to put in individual purifiers or you do a whole house purification system. I work with one I have for many years called a Solace Air RS4. And with this system, and there are many other good systems in the market, so I'm not just shilling for that one. You want to be able to do all three forms of purification at the same time. The first form is particle capture, or what we know is like a HEPA filter, right? Air goes through the filter. It's rated at a certain MERV level, and particle size. Certain particle sizes get captured in the filter, and then the rest of the air goes through. The problem with this is if you have a MERV that's too high, air doesn't go through it properly, and it actually reduces the heating and cooling of your house. You got to be very careful about how you balance that. The second thing is you can do what's called a UV light. And a UV light that's inside of an air purification system will take care of your pathogens, your mold spores, your viruses, bacteria that flows through the air. The third way to purify is using carbon. And that's like, the Austin air purifiers and, others that use high amounts of carbon in their portables. RS4 uses a carbon filter in their system too. So you have all three methods. And that third method of carbon, that's what absorbs chemicals, gases, VOC. So all the air in the house will go through eventually through this purifier, but you have to make sure you have return air ducts that service every room. If you have a house that has one return air grill in one hallway, you're kind of in that situation I talked about before with the portables, where you're not going to get air from the far expanses of the house really going through there to purify each and every corner.
Great, Andy. Thank you so much. We're out of time. You really made environmental, concerns a fun topic. And now I'm looking suspiciously at everything in my living space. Thank you for that. So, if we can unmute the audience, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.